Hello. How you doing? Using a microphone today. We'll see if I like the difference or not. Anyway, good morning. It's early in the morning. It's a Sunday. And we've been doing a lot of Christmas things lately. So we have a friend named Joe. And Joe looks a lot like Santa Claus. Let me show you Joe's picture. There it is, right there. Okay. So we saw Joe. When I say we, I mean Robin and I. We saw Joe on a Friday. We were, it was a week ago Friday, I guess it was. And he looks like Santa Claus, as you can tell. He does not put it on. It's just the way he looks. And we saw him, because Robin and I play music on the sidewalk in our town, Ocala, Florida, on the first Friday of every month, pretty much. It's called First Friday Art Walk, and we like doing it. She plays the mandolin, I play the accordion. We don't sing, we don't profess to be like virtuosos. We're just out there having fun. And Joe comes by all the time. Joe knew us, and we knew Joe because we had a radio show. For those who don't know, Robin and I retired from radio. We had a 36-year career in radio. Nothing big. We were all small time, but the point is we had a small audience, local, and Joe was one of our callers. Every now and then he would call in and comment on whatever we were talking about. So we got to know Joe. Now when we do First Friday Art Walk, we see him on Fridays, pretty much once a month. And super nice guy, and as you can tell, looks extraordinarily like Santa Claus. So Robin and I have 4-year-old grandson. Her grandson and my grandson born the exact same day, January 1st. Same day, not just the same date, but the same day, which is kind of interesting. Her grandson lives in New Jersey. My grandson lives here. Anyway, so I saw I saw Joe walking past, and I said to Joe, "Can you do me a favor? Would you talk to Robin's grandson on a video and and do the Santa thing?" So he did, and this is what that looked like.
Hey, Owen!
Ooh.
Guess who? And guess who he's here with? He's with Grandma. Owen, you only got 24 more days till Christmas. You gotta stay on the nice list, buddy. Hey, what's Santa's favorite cookie, Owen? Do you know? It's the round one. Merry Christmas, Owen. Ho, ho, ho.
We love you, Owen. Thank you, Santa.
Okay, so that was cool, right? So from that video, I did a screenshot of one of those moments, and I wanted to do a painting of Joe, and I went with digital. I like digital because I can go quicker, and I don't have to be set up with a lot of paint and everything. And not that that's a pain, but it's just convenient, and it just works. Anyway, it's what I did. But I want to show you how I did it, okay? So I didn't videotape myself doing it, but the Procreate app records you one stroke at a time, just so you know. And then it gives you a time-lapse version. So the way it works is if you hold the stylus, which is referred to as a brush, if you hold it down on the screen and scrub it like you're coloring in, with a crayon, it counts it as one stroke. So as you're watching this time lapse, I'll explain it again as we go through it. But so it looks like there was just a blob all of a sudden added of color, but it's not. It's you're literally working a brush, and so that's it. But doesn't this guy look like Santa Claus, huh? Joe. Nice guy. So yesterday we saw him again, but yesterday he was actually in the Santa Claus uniform, suit, Santa Claus suit, and I have a fun quick story before we get to the art. So we went to this train display. This guy's got an amazing outdoor train display, a garden train, and so he invites, and it's in his yard. So the man who owns it, the man and woman, couple who own it, they invite people once a year to come in to their backyard and see the trains. So Robin and I went to see the trains, and then we went back to get Robin's mom, who was 90, and she was just loving it. But I had already seen the train, so I was kind of just standing outside waiting for them. And these two boys come up, and I hear on these little bicycles, just two little guys, and I hear one say to the other one, "I don't think this is the house." And it occurs to me that they see this big, strange stranger, and that's me, standing there, and they probably were frightened. So I said, "Oh, no, if you're looking for Santa Claus, this is the house. He's in the backyard." So then the two boys parked their little bikes. The bikes were so tiny. It was unbelievable. The two bikes, and they were excited to go see Santa Claus. But yeah, I was standing there probably looking like a scarecrow or something, just not looking like Santa Claus, that's for sure. And anyway, it was a very, very sweet moment. And Joe is so good with the kids too. He is Santa Claus. He even knows sign language. I watched him doing sign language with some of the children. Very nice. So we gave the printed we printed out the digital file of the portrait I did of him. Let me show you that before we get into it, okay? So here's us giving the portrait to Joe. Oh, so here we go. Hey, there he is. Hey, Joe.
My back right down. Okay, you're right. I gave a portion, and I sold my last portion 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
We have a gift. We have a gift for you.
All right.
And we're videotaping you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. How are you? What do we got? Today, 19 days till Christmas.
And Santa eats in the Ocala diner.
Santa loves Florida.
You want to see what we got?
Yeah, let's see what you got.
All right, you're going to have to open it. It looks like a pizza.
Anchovies and sausage.
Right?
Anchovies and sausage is a redneck surf and turf.
Oh, no. Is that right?
Holy cow! Gee, Manetti.
And that's not Santa, that's Joe.
That is unbelievable. Your talent is just...
So that's your gift as a thank you for doing the Christmas greeting for little Owen.
Larry, I'm seriously impressed. I'm going to move my Picasso just so I'll have a place to put this.
All right, there you go. Let's see if you look like it. Yes, you do. Yeah. Very good. Can we sit with you and have coffee with you?
Oh, yeah.
Or are you in a hurry?
What side of the table did you want?
It doesn't matter.
You know?
Are you? Or do you have to run somewhere?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. Well, now you know the whole story. Let me just narrate the time lapse and explain how I painted this. Okay? How I painted Santa Claus. Here we go. All right. Well, there is the finished portrait that I did of Santa Claus. I think I'll call him Santa Claus from now on and not Joe. No, maybe I will call him Joe. Let me tell you something. I chose not to put the Santa Claus hat onto him. I was back and forth with whether I should do that or not, and I decided not to because it occurred to me that I should really do a portrait of Joe, because Joe is amazing in and of himself. He doesn't have to be Santa Claus to be amazing. He really is truly amazing. So I chose not to put the Santa Claus hat on him because I wanted to paint Joe, not Santa Claus. Anyway, what you're seeing here, hopefully you can see it, is my sketch. So what you can't see is that I had the photograph I showed you earlier off to the side. Let me put it in here so you kind of know what I'm doing. There. Okay. Now you see my reference photo. So I used this reference photo as my guide so that I knew what I was doing. And when you do a likeness, you always have to sketch it out, because anytime there's a mistake, you have to correct it. What you don't see here is the corrections, because if I corrected something, it obviously didn't record it. So, although it probably did, I probably am wrong about that. I'm not sure about that. I can't even see it myself. It's so light. But anyway, so you sketch it first, and in a face, everything is important. Every little thing is super important. The eyes, the shape of the eyes, the size of the eyes, the distance between the eyes and the nose. There are some rules of thumb that you can look up if you want to. What is the ratio of the distance between the eyes and the nose and all that? There are some, and they work, but you kind of have to use them loosely, because sometimes some people don't exactly fit the mold of those rules. But they're not a bad way. And the one thing you want to make sure you're doing is lining things up. So if you have a ruler, in the case of traditional art, or in digital art, you can just put a line down, just a straight line, and then you can always erase it or put it on a separate layer. Okay, so what you saw right there is I decided I didn't want to paint on white. I wanted to paint on gray or blue-gray, which is probably a better description of the color I chose for the background. And then I went for the eye on the left side, which is his right eye. And I just kind of studied the color. And I would do this with traditional paint too. If any of you have seen any of my traditional, I did one yesterday of a dog named Hudson, and that's a really good example in real time. It's a really good example in real time of working with real paint and using the same techniques that I use here in the digital paint. One of the things I do differently with digital is that sometimes I will add the highlights as I'm going. In traditional paint, I often add the highlights after the fact. I'll add the darker colors, and then I'll add the highlights. Now that's if I'm using gouache, or if I'm using acrylic, or oil. I guess those are the three. But if I'm using watercolor, you kind of have to work backwards. You think in terms of what's the brightest first, because the brightest is going to be the white paper. So you don't even paint that, or you try not to. And if you make a mistake with watercolor, don't fret. Use gouache. Gouache will be a good way to cover an area that needs to be white. I know some purists don't want to do that, but gouache can look exactly like watercolor. And so you won't lose anything, and you'll be happier with your picture in the end. So, yeah, especially if you have a workload, if you have assignments that you need to get done. If you're a working artist, you really have to get through the project in order to move on to the next one. So, yeah, adding gouache to a watercolor is okay. I don't use watercolor. I don't think I've ever used watercolor for a portrait. And so if you use watercolor for a landscape, you've got a lot more elbow room, a lot more freedom, I guess. I don't know how to say that, but you're able to do it loosely, because it's a landscape. A tree doesn't always look like that, and the sky doesn't always look like that. So you can take liberties, and you can be artistic. All right, now see here, right here, it looks like the areas are just popping in. That's because I was scrubbing in the color, because I knew an undercolor needed to just be one color. It didn't have to be broken down into separate colors yet. I do that as an upper layer. In digital, it's an actual layer, sometimes, not always. In traditional, it's just it's a term. It's a layer, but you're still painting on the same surface. On digital, you have a different surface, an actual surface that you can delete if you want to. Don't have that luxury with traditional paint. So you could see what I was trying to do. I was trying to emulate the look in the reference photo, where the light is on his right side, our left, and the shadow is on his right side, or our right, his left. You know what I mean. The reference photo was taken in the evening, and to his right, to our left, was a store. Robin and I were sitting in front of an ice cream store, a chocolate shop, and so their lights were shining on Joe, and that's where that light comes from. And of course, there were lights in the street also, so you do see some light coming from both directions. It just happens that the brighter side is the side closest to the store. I'm going to show you a trick that I do. I think I only use one digital trick in this whole painting, and I don't think I used any other. I call them tricks. They're techniques. You can call them techniques if you don't want to call them tricks. But it's something you can't do on traditional art, and I will say you can't, but you can in a way. You can put a glaze over a picture. You can do that. But the trick I'm talking about is I use a layer called, and you set it up this way so that it's multiply. It's called multiply. There's quite a few settings on Procreate. Multiply is one of them. And if you take multiply and you just make the whole layer, maybe a light blue or a light gray or a light brown, then you can add a big old shadow over everything and then erase the parts that you want to have as light. I'm going to show you that in a moment. By the way, when you just saw his beard kind of go away and come back, that was me just looking at it and trying to decide if I've done something wrong, if I need to fix something. The brush I'm using, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you, the brush I'm using is the dry brush. The dry brush is such a wonderful brush, in my opinion. I use it all the time. It gives a digital painting a painterly look. That's what I want, especially in these kind of pictures. If I'm doing an illustration for a children's book, for example, I might use other brushes. I might even use an airbrush. I might use a gouache brush. I might use a pastel brush or a charcoal brush or even a pencil. It depends on the book. It depends on what I want to achieve. And quite often, I don't even know when I get started what I want to achieve. It's never cemented in my brain until I start working on it. But so you can see that the portrait looks pretty good. Now the background is pretty important. I assume I'm going to start the background soon. Again, this is a time lapse, and the whole painting. Oh gosh, I'm going to say it took me about 3 hours, maybe. So we are crunching down 3 hours into about 14 minutes on this video. And what I'm doing right there is I'm there you go. So what I do, okay, this is an important part. I take the picture of Joe and I matted it. I took it separately and I painted behind him the color of the background so that the new background won't be bleeding through. It's kind of like pasting a picture onto another piece of paper. And now what I'm doing is I'm using the dry brush and I'm experimenting with background colors. I'm experimenting with the some of the features. Now right there, you see that right there? That is me using the multiply layer right there. You see how the whole thing got darker and now areas of his face are getting lighter. That's because I'm using the eraser to erase the part that was darker. So I made the whole thing darker, and then I erased the parts that I want to be illuminated. Isn't that a cool thing to do? Now, you can do that with real paint. Don't think it's only something you can do with digital. But it is a cool trick, and you really have to use it correctly if you want it to have the effect, because you want to try to study how does light cascade over a surface? How does light go around a curve like his forehead is a curve? How does it do that? And does it happen on both sides? You see on the right side of his beard, there's a little white area right there. That's probably a mistake. I don't think I left it there. And the way you undo a mistake in this world, in the digital world, is you take the same color that you used as the shadow, and you get rid of the eraser and you turn on the brush. There you go. See right there, it just went away. So you brush on the same color that you used for the shadow, and you can get rid of it. I also think I got rid of the reflections in his glass, the little bit of his eyeglasses, the little bit of white at the bottom of his eyeglasses. Pretty sure that I did that too. I can't remember. But all in all, this was a super rewarding painting to do. It was not commissioned. He did not ask us to do it. He did not know we were going to do it. And this is a guy who gives to the community. He's everywhere. He went through a major medical episode about 4 years ago, I think, and almost died. And he's just been a great person in our community. So thank you, Joe, if you happen to ever see this. And for the listeners, hopefully, if you're watching the channel. Oh, by the way, if you are enjoying what I'm doing, I'm going to try to do this. I will be Poppa Paints, and as long as I can, and I will be doing digital like this. I will be showing you gouache. I will be showing you acrylics. I will show you pencil and colored pencil and colored pencil watercolor. That's a cool one too. Painting with, and the other day I did a painting with wine. I did a painting with coffee. And we'll be doing landscapes and portraits, and hopefully there's something you like on here. And the beautiful thing is it's YouTube, so you can fast forward or just bail out of it if you like. Anyway, thanks for watching. There's Joe. There's my name. I do it big and then I shrink it. Watch. Goes into the corner real tiny. Okay. All right. See you later.